Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. This is Fabrizio Gamberini. I am the president for Vibram Corporation, and I run the brand for Vibram globally. I wanted to give you the welcome to the Sneaker Forum number 4. This is a special edition of the Sneaker Forum. Up to now, we have been working on physical presence and providing like a meeting point in our Consumer Experience Center back in Boston on Commonwealth Ave. This time, because of the situation, we are going to be streaming live, and I hope that for all of you will be an easy listening through the video, through the Zoom application that we ended up using. This is the 4th edition. We have been developing this series of sneaker forums to connect the brand with the consumer. We want to kind of facilitate the people that are in love already with our brand, providing some ideas, providing some specific topics that we want to talk with together, and find a way to collectively stimulate discussions. Today, the topic is actually very interesting because in the situation in which we are, some of the states here in the US are starting to open. In Europe, we have a situation that maybe is a little ahead, so they started already to open a few weeks ago. In Asia, we have situations that are midway open and not really 100%. So in all this situation, we are trying to help people to come up with, if you want, a business idea in order to keep or in order to develop footwear. So the idea, the topic of the day is really, we want to provide with hints, suggestion, topics that are all related to startup. How can you start up a business from a footwear standpoint? In doing this, and I'll let the speakers developing the topic, I want to just mention 2 seconds about from a business standpoint. Clearly, from a business standpoint, the situation is different than business as usual. This is a, if you want, let's call it a crisis situation in which we need to pay attention in a little different way. There is an index that is very important in this moment. That is what we call the total return to the shareholder. So people that are investing in your idea, they want to get some sort of reward out of the investment they are making. So there are, based upon a McKinsey study, there are 3 different things that are very important when you develop your own business, especially in a crisis situation like the one that we are today. And those 3 points are the following. The first one is you need to have a very clear through cycle mindset. What does it mean? It means that you know that this is a crisis situation. You know that you need to be careful in what you're doing, and you need to manage your startup with the lenses of a crisis situation. So a clear through cycle mindset. The second point is, and it's very clear, you need to save resources ideally early enough in order to invest later on in what is needed. So you don't want to continue the investment business as usual. In a situation where we are, you need to pay attention in the spending because, and we arrive to the third point, it is extremely important to invest, especially from a capital expenditure standpoint. It's very important to invest in the future, not really in the present, wherever is innovation or operation, but invest in the future. Actually, the McKinsey studies say that people that are developing brands, that are developing in the situation that we are talking about, footwear brands, are investing actually more than usual, actually to a 90% compared to the average 25% in capital expenditure. All of this, again, with the lenses of I need to provide a total return to the shareholders, because that's at the end what is going to move my business. I will pass the word to David, but before that, I will introduce very briefly Dwayne Edwards from Pencil. Dwayne already was part of our Sneaker Forum number 3, connected from Portland, Oregon. Sophia Chen, and then Kyle Riegel from Garrison. So I want to thank all of them for the time, and of course I want to thank David for hosting the meeting, and I'll let you guys discuss, and I'm ready to take some notes too. Thank you, and thanks for listening. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Fabrizio. I hope there's some notes to take, so we'll see.
All right. Thank you for the introduction, Fabrizio. Thanks for everybody tuning in. We're going to get right into number 4. I can't believe this is still rolling. Thank you all for joining. You all have tremendous backgrounds. So I'll give you guys the opportunity, maybe a quick minute or two, to introduce yourselves, and then kind of what your backgrounds are in, what you guys are working on, you know, either for yourself or for the brands that you work with. So let's start with ladies first, and we'll begin with Sophia.
Well, hi, David. Great to connect.
Hi,
with
good to see you again.
Dwayne, we have mutual friends as well, and Kyle, great to just be a part of this conversation. So thank you, Vibram, for having me. Is my internet okay? I just got like a little pop-up. Anyways.
You're good.
So my background is in illustration and design. That's my main trade, bread and butter. And I'd say in the past decade, I've had the opportunity to be able to work on illustrations and design work for a lot of amazing brands out there in the world. And I think the main thread with a lot of the work that I do that is essentially storytelling and connecting the dots. Having learned the skills to be able to build and create a lot of things empowers the creator to be able to do whatever it is that they want. So I also have a health and wellness platform called Undo Ordinary, which is all about connecting the art and design community to the messaging of health and wellness and how we can repackage that. And as of most recently, we've gone public, or as at least we've told the world about what we're working on. I'm also the co-founder of Common Ace, which is a one-stop shop for women's sneaker retail. So we're very new. We're only 2 weeks in, and I'm really excited to share that with the world.
Awesome. Thank you. Kyle, we'll jump over to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, David. Really excited to have this conversation today. I'm Kyle Riegel. I am currently working on Garrison. Garrison is a platform to help kind of demystify the footwear development process, and we really focus on design, development, and manufacturing of footwear right here in the United States. And so, I think this moment in particular, it's unordinary times, and it's a great opportunity to be able to onshore some of our footwear production. Currently only 1% of the shoes that are purchased in the U.S. are made in the U.S. And so that's something we're really trying to hack away at, and trying to do that by empowering the design community. We think there's a lot of people out there drawing sneakers, and so we want to give them an opportunity to have them made.
Perfect. And then of course, Dwayne Edwards, we'll jump to you.
Yeah, leave the old dude for last. All right, I see how you do it, right? Yeah. No, name is Dwayne Edwards, founder of Pencil Academy in Portland, Oregon. We are a design academy. We started off specifically just doing footwear, but we've expanded to functional apparel and accessories. But we ultimately really prepare the next generation of footwear leaders for what it's like to work in the corporate industry. And all of our curriculum is based on exactly the product creation teams that exist in these companies. And we teach you the way you exactly will work when you get to those companies as well. And so that's the short version.
That's perfect. Yeah, no, thanks for coming back and sharing some more knowledge with the people listening. On the opposite side of the corporate world, we have Sophia, who is a self-starter, an entrepreneur, a business owner, a co-owner. So we're going to start with you, Sophia, and kind of if you're able to just shed some light on what that's like. What are some of like the initial learnings? Why do you choose the path to to work for yourself, be a self-starter, you know, what are the pros, you know, maybe even some of the cons to doing so, and enlighten and inspire the people who are either there yet or just on the brink, or maybe thinking about doing their own thing in the future?
That's a loaded question. You know, I think one word that you said was like choose. I don't think I ever really chose this. I don't think anything at any point was like, I'm going to do that. I had an idea, but I think a lot of it was just more like, I had a very, I guess like since I was a kid, I've always been pretty self-aware, probably from my parents trying to tell me what to do and I didn't want to listen. But when I was in college, I attended Parsons School of Design and studied illustration there. And I've always just been interested in learning as much as I can. As my approach to undergrad was like, I just want to be a sponge and absorb everything I can. So I would audit classes. You know, I worked at Journeys in Union. If anyone's familiar with New York, I worked at Journeys in Union Square. I worked at the Puma store that was there. And I got myself involved in a number of internships at Complex Magazine back in the day when it used to be a magazine. On the print side, and I also interned with a fine artist and a graphic designer that worked within streetwear. And so, yeah, it was just let's learn these skills and then I'll figure out what I'm going to do with it. There was just a genuine interest. And because I learned how to use InDesign at my internship at Complex, I was able to build a magazine, and I've been able to turn Undo Ordinary into a magazine print-based platform. I had an internship. The guy who shared the studio with the graphic designer I interned with was a web designer. So he would pull me in for projects here and there if he needed to hit a deadline, taught me how to use Photoshop in order to design websites. And then I soon actually ended up working with him a few years after I graduated, learned about UI, learned about UX, never had a degree in it, right? But I was able to work and learn from these people. And because of that, I've been able to build Common Ace from scratch. And granted, those skills I learned like, I don't know, 10 plus years ago. It's more of just, I think if the opportunity presents itself, you know, just if you have faith and you know that you've invested in your skill, and as a creative person, you're open to those types of challenges, it's really exciting to see, you know, if you lean into your own creativity, what will come of all that. And then of course there is the business element, right? At the end of the day, I'm not any different from any other small business owner. I have to pay bills and keep the lights on and have utilities and stuff like that. And
you have a team of employees.
Me?
Yeah, do you have people that help you out as well?
Well, to be really transparent, since COVID, that's actually been cut because some clients were late on some bills, and so I couldn't meet payroll, and you know, it was a pretty difficult decision to make, just to be really transparent, and a lot of that work fell on me, and only me, which was pretty unfortunate, and I'm still like figuring that out in terms of quarantine, but that's also the reality of it. And I'm also learning on a day-to-day basis, in addition to, you know, all the cool creative stuff people see, I'm also still learning how to run a business and be a leader. And in the midst of all that, make sure I'm taking care of myself so that I can still be a proper leader and delegate work in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I think everybody can appreciate the transparency there.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
It was very real.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
You mentioned doing this for 10 plus years ago and stuff like that, and I think that'll just segue. I'm gonna pop over to Dwayne. I mean, Pencil's been now around for 10 years, which is a huge congratulations for being in business that long. What was really, you know, you mentioned it started in footwear and teaching people, but like what was the need that you saw in the industry to create an academy like the one you've built?
There was no pipeline, man. I mean, when I was a kid, like this is in the 80s, right? High school in the 80s, like that's what I wanted to do. Like I wanted to be a footwear designer. I was really clear. And growing up in Inglewood in LA, it was only apparel, and I didn't want to do apparel. I wanted to do footwear. And so, you know, I didn't have the luxury of jumping on Google in the 80s, right? So I had to rely on a phone book. I don't know if y'all know what a Yellow Pages is, some of you young people. but I had to rely on a book, right, to tell me what was available in my city or surrounding cities. And when I couldn't find what I wanted to go to school for, I honestly lost interest in the whole idea of going to college completely. Not to mention, you know, I'm the youngest of 6 kids, so there was no money actually to even send me to college if I wanted to go to college. But, you know, I was still fortunate enough to get into the industry at the age of 19 and just work my way up through the entire industry. And the decade 1 passed, decade 2 passed, and there was still no direct pipeline for kids to get in. And the internet happens and kids start to figure out my email address when I worked at Nike and Jordan.
Mhm.
And so I would get these emails from kids saying, hey, you know, how do I become a footwear designer? And so just that idea popped up, where it's like, man, it would be great, you know, for me to create a school that as a kid, I wish I was able to attend, and as a hiring manager, a place I would hire from. And, you know, before we started Pencil, like there was no specific place that you can do that. You know, no disrespect to Arcitoria or Coal Winers, or, you know, even what the legend Howard Davis has done with Parsons. There was no dedicated institution specifically for footwear that you can look to, and for it to be a pipeline for the whole industry to kind of look at. And, you know, I like challenges, man, and I'm super competitive. And so I was like, well, you know, if no one else has done it, I'll do it. And, you know, so the kid that didn't go to college started a college. And I thought that was realistic and feasible. So I started doing it. And 10 years later, you know, we're still around. And now, you know, we become the blueprint for other people to look at. And, you know, so now other schools and other places are looking to see what we've done to get to this point. And, you know, I could tell you, you know, those of you who out there who have your own business and you want to be, I hope you want to be the best one in the whole industry, whatever it is, right? Because I believe there's either first or the person's first to lose. Like, I don't believe in anything other than those two things. And so, you know, you just have to have a certain mentality when you go into business to want to be great. And if you don't want to be great, don't do it. In my opinion, right? The other thing that I really found that really drove me the most, quite honestly, was just a lack of not seeing people who look like me. And this is my 31st year in the footwear industry, and sadly, there's still less than 3% of people who look like me designing footwear. And that's embarrassing, quite honestly. The industry as a whole should be embarrassed, considering the amount of African-American faces are on ads or being endorsed or, you know, highlighting product. And, you know, it's not completely the industry's fault, though. You know, it's a product of how the industry looks for talent. And if the industry looks for talent through design schools and design colleges and art colleges, well, less than 10% of African Americans are actually enrolled in those schools every year, and 40% drop out every year. So there's a probability of 2 to 3% graduate every year. So then that becomes the reflection of the industry. And ultimately, all we're trying to do is just change those numbers around a bit. And we've been able to make a pretty big dent in those numbers in the 10 years that we've been doing it, though.
I would say so. I think most of us can agree. You guys are the staple now. You created something that didn't exist, and it helps you guys grow. And I think at Pencil, it's you got to have it on your resume nowadays, and it's the thing that people look for, and everybody talks about it, especially, you know, from Vibram's perspective, where we get to work with a number of different brands. Everybody's always looking for, you know, that person with that pencil background. So it's really been tremendous to see you guys grow over the years.
Thanks,
so
man.
Go ahead.
I said, thanks, man. That's good to know.
Yeah, totally. So on the other side of that, Kyle, you know, you mentioned it in your introduction. You know, there's a lot of designers or people who think they design, especially in the Instagram world, who draw a lot and want to get into the field, who maybe even haven't heard of Pencil yet or anything like that, or who are more hands-on and want to get into craftsmanship. And what do you think sets Garrickson apart in terms of, you know, that design, that development of actually making the footwear?
Well, I mean, I think we serve two different functions, right? I mean, I think Pencil is breeding like the next generation of designers, and a good portion of those designers have an opportunity to go work for brands because they went to a great academy like Pencil that can kind of support and help them get there. But I think there's a whole nother portion that Dwayne supports that don't make it to the brand, and doesn't necessarily mean that their design is not worthy of being produced, right? And so we want to be that next step, right? So now that I can design a shoe, where do I get that shoe produced? And, you know, our assumption is that the world just doesn't know better than to buy Nike and Adidas, right? Because there's just a lack of opportunities, right? And so the industry is really controlled by two big dogs, or a handful of big dogs. And so we think that if we give the opportunity for young designers to be able to make shoes and learn about the development process, then you know, we can sell more shoes that aren't Nike and Adidas, and give people a platform to start a brand. And so, you know, I think where Garrison really stands apart from other factories, one, there just aren't many in the US, but two, I think you know, we want to find a way to make the cost of entry.
Oh, is everybody else frozen?
No, I'm good.
One of the biggest costs. And so that's a huge step in the right direction. But then two, you know, I think the development costs can also be very expensive to pattern and to grade. And so we want to bring that cost down quite a bit by figuring out a way to partner with young designers. And we're testing it through this design contest we're hosting with you guys right now. This idea that, we will sponsor the cost to get you to development, and then we will pre-sell your shoe and, you know, make those shoes on a made to order basis, and then cut you back as the designer profit off that shoe. So, you know, in some sense, we're using your design to get sales, and hopefully you amplify that message through your community, and you have the opportunity to make some cash as your shoe sales. And, you know, if you get enough sales, then you can use that cash to actually start your brand.
Definitely. Yeah, I think that's awesome. It in so many different tiers of stacking a message of, you know, made in America, you know, helping people get, you know, self-started and working and building product. You know, I think that's amazing. And we're going to loop back to that partnership in terms of the design competition, because we do want to dive a little bit into that. As we kind of progress halfway through this, just want to give all our listeners the opportunity. We do have a Q&A section, so please ask your questions to the panelists. We're going to have some time at the end, about 15 minutes or so, and then people can vote on those questions if those are the questions they want to hear. So feel free to ask in the Q&A section. I see the chat bar going off, so thank you guys who are chatting with us as we're going live here. We are going to shift over some questions in terms of partnerships, right? Sophia, this is going to go back to you now. I think one of the best things about your work is you really have a keen eye for choosing your partnerships. You've worked a lot of this. I think some of the best stuff that I've seen is your partnerships with Adidas, you know, where you do your illustrations and you kind of have this stylized way of kind of helping promote those brands, and then also many, many others. I don't know if you want to speak about, you know, how do you choose your partnerships? What is that process like for you? Are you really selective? You know, do they give you creative freedom? I think these are some of the key questions that some of our listeners would be really interested in.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I think there's obviously always a choice, but it's not like everyone's hitting me up all the time to do collabs and stuff like that. For me, my approach has always been, hey, let me just keep my head down. Let me focus on my work, do my job well, focus on my own goals, and kind of stick to those milestones. And, you know, thankfully I'm in a place earlier in my career, like it's not like the inbox was hot all the time. As of the past few years, it's been a lot of, you know, healthy amount of workflow that's been coming in, and I'm able to kind of just address that. Not saying that I don't have my own personal aspirations to be able to work on collaborations with some of the bigger sneaker dogs, as mentioned before, which is really exciting because I'm actually working on something with Garrickson in the works as well. Well, which probably we can't share too much about that. Yeah, and Vibram's involved as well. Okay, that's too much.
Well, we came full circle here, so that's great.
Yeah, I know, it's random. But yeah, I think one big thing is that it's not as great as a lot of times people think. I think one big thing to always remember on everything that you see on Instagram is that you're seeing the end product a lot of times. And even if you're looking at the behind the scenes, that's intentional as well. And that there are so many hurdles and so many problems and like fires you have to put out as a business owner and also as a collaborator with these big corporate brands. And, you know, earlier on, one of the biggest projects I've been able to work on in the sneaker space is I had a chance to work on my own collaboration with Puma in 2013 that was recorded to be one of their top lifestyle grossing collections they had ever done. Wow. Up until Rihanna had done hers, which, you know, for me, just like a regular girl from Queens, New York, like that's
you're in good company.
In good company, and I'm not mad. And she actually wore my sneakers as well, and wow. It was really huge, you know, in my career. And I think as, you know, a woman of color in the sneaker space as well, like that was amazing. And I'm excited and I know what that's like and how that appears for, you know, other aspiring creators who can see people who look like them, and the messaging that offers. But, you know, that in and of itself was a bit of an interesting journey as well. It was the first time a huge corporate client had worked with someone who was a non-celebrity, right? At that time, corporate clients were really working with mainly like famous celebrities, not so much like smaller creators, influencers, and stuff like that back in the day. And so they were also trying to navigate that space. So it was a lot of growing pains and also like mishaps that happened. You know, they actually drew over my artwork without my consent for some of the apparel that we put out. So the whole collection was apparel, footwear, and accessories. There were other hiccups with, you know, designing the product, choosing the fabrics. For myself, actually, this is a great learning experience because I actually signed away all the rights to my artwork because I was young at the time. I didn't have money to hire a lawyer and I didn't really know what I was doing. I saw that it was such a cool, great opportunity. I probably could have negotiated things better. But I'm excited because now I have a story to be able to tell, to share with other creators who are aspiring to work with big corporate brands. So the business, the legal, all of that is extremely important to protect yourself and just protect the terms of a collaboration like that. I mean, that being said, I'm still happy things worked out the way they did because, you know, it's opened a lot of great doors and it was just a great learning experience for me overall. But the takeaway is it's not always just glitz and glamour and magic like it might seem.
It's not? Oh, man. You can't be crushing people's dreams like that, Sophia.
Only with pencil, though. It's fantastic with them.
hey, we crush dreams all the time. As soon as they find out how much work they got to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Dwayne keeps it real over there. You know, people got to be on time. You know, otherwise they're doing push-ups and some other stuff over there. So that's the real world. You got to you know, respect that. I think it's amazing that. You know, 2013, you launched that and you're still every day, you know, in business learning and adopting and adapting and picking up different methodologies and moving with the times. It seems like that's insight that is really authentic and real. So thanks again for the transparency. You know, you never know where these things are going to go and how much people want to share. And I think people can really appreciate that.
I mean, it's survival of the fittest, you know? So you're getting the check or someone else is getting the check. So what are you going to do to put your best foot forward?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Welcome to life.
Need that competitiveness. You know, you can't survive without it in this industry. Shit, you can't survive in this world without it.
Straight up.
So Dwayne, maybe you can expand a little from your different, a little bit different of a perspective, you know, in terms of partnerships. We obviously, Vibram and Pencil have a relationship and a cooperation together. You know, we actually have a small satellite office that's right above yours in Portland, Oregon. You know, what are some of the key things that you look for? We were talking offline about, you know, a recent one that you're starting up with a brand. I don't know if you want to go into that, or what are some of the insights that you can give to people to you know, selecting? It's not, I can't imagine it's always yes, the first person who comes knocking on the door.
Oh, hell no. Because you'll run into more people that's full of BS than people that's really want to do stuff. You know, I think for me, probably, I would say like three things that we really kind of look at. One is, you know, are you the best in your industry, right? Where it's like, I want to be great at whatever I'm doing, and you need to hang out with the best people to understand what great looks like. And otherwise, you're reducing your expectation for your rise. So if you don't set that bar for yourself, and then if you don't set that bar for the people that you work with, and then the people that you partner with, then you're not going to reach whatever potential you want to reach, especially if it's called great. So I would probably say one is just work with the best people as you can, right? Both employees and partners. Another I would say is you know, look at, does your businesses complement each other equally though? Equally. And, you know, I'm someone who prides myself on providing a solid value proposition for what I do. And I expect the same from you, right? Because I think that if it's too one-sided, it's going to eventually not work, right? If one side of the partnership is benefiting more than the other side of the partnership, eventually it's just going to break down. And so I would definitely say, like, really look at, do you complement each other? And that's overlooked a lot of times. The last one to me is probably one of the bigger ones is, you know, can I trust you, right? And because I'm a very brutally honest person at times, for people, you know, that know me and may say it. I'm a brutally honest person at times, but I have high integrity for myself and the expectation I have for other people, especially those that I want to partner with or those that I work with. You know, I've had, you know, potential people come to me that, you know, want to have discussions to do stuff, and we get to the point of even having lawyers pay for contracts and revisions, and then they back out or they disappear, or, you know, they end up doing what you discussed to do without you, right? So it's like they kind of do shit behind your back, right? That to me is like, you just can't do that kind of stuff in business, especially our industry, because our industry, even though it's 50 billion plus, it's super small. I mean, it is very, very, very small. And the last thing you want to do is burn bridges. And, you know, for me, like, that just activates what I would call my controlled bipolarism, where, you know, I'm super competitive, I'm super nice, but then you cross me, then I could be your nightmare, right? And so for me, it's like, I'll really just look for people that I can trust, both with the people I work with and people I do business with. And, you know, the partnership with you guys, with Vibram, like, it's been great, man. I mean, I think it really kind of jumped off when Marco, you know, the owner, came to visit us in Portland. That showed me a lot about Vibram as a business and the people that are there. And then along the way, just meeting more and more good people, you know, from, you know, Massimo, who initially made the connection, to Paolo. I mean, there's like 4 or 5 Paolos at Vibram, by the way.
There are.
Coletto, Fabricio, Reka, you know, even yourself, David, like, you know, the times that you've been in Portland to hang out with us, it's been genuine and cool, right? So
thank you.
To me, like, I would say, like, for those out there, like, understand who you're working with, both from, you know, can you trust them? You know, is the business opportunity equal? And are they the best in their industry? You know, because you have to set those standards for yourself. Otherwise, you know, you'll get burned.
Man, that's some intense insight. I'm ready to run through a brick wall after that. I feel motivated. I'm good to go. That was awesome. Thank you, Dwayne. In terms of partnerships, again, we're going to continue that. And then I don't know, you guys can see it. These questions are blowing up. So we're gonna do one more set question. It's going to go to Kyle, but then we're going to jump to the Q&A. Because it just keeps going off, and there's a lot of good questions out there. I think people really want to get your guys' insight. So Kyle, you mentioned it a little before. We have launched live as of a couple of days ago, or very recently, design competition, obviously partners with Vibram and Garrickson as well. Maybe you can talk about that. One of the questions that popped up was someone just joined and they didn't know too much about it. So maybe there's a few other people who have joined since then. If you want to talk about the design competition, how people can access it, what the goal is, I think that's really important, and to give people opportunities that they might have not had before.
Yeah, totally. Thank you. So the design contest is based on this simple premise that there's a lot of people out there with that are drawing shoes or design shoes that don't know how to get them made. And so the idea was to partner with Vibram and launch a design contest where we pre-select some outsoles, and we put it out to the public to have the opportunity to draw any upper that they see fit on these outsoles that are predetermined, and then we'll kind of put it to the community to decide which shoes get made. And so the idea is we'll dwindle it down to 16 finalists, and then through Instagram stories, allow people to vote on which ones are the best. And then once we get down to the final two, so kind of the national championship, we'll actually sample both of those shoes, allow, develop the story a little bit, right? Create some content, and then put both of those shoes up for pre-sale. And the person with the most pre-sales will get a larger percentage of the profit from those shoes. And the runner-up will also get a small portion of the profit, just not as much. And so, in some sense, it allows us to mitigate some of the risk by doing this kind of made to order. We also think it's super interesting to start to understand what a better demand model looks like, right? Right now, like the industry right now makes 25 billion pairs of shoes a year, and there's only 7.8 billion people on the earth, right? So it's like it's considering that waste amongst this all, and it's going to take a long time, if ever, to change consumers' kind of buying habits. Right. But we think we can tell that story in a convincing way and give people a shot to hop on board.
Yeah, so everybody listening, please check out Garrickson's website or Instagram or ours. The competition is live, and if you're a creator and you want to give it a shot, there's no point in trying. Just work hard at it and submit away. With that being said, we do have more questions planned, but just due to time, we're going to jump to all the questions that people have been submitting. Sophia, this first one's going to go to you, it looks like, because they're also, I'm going to combine two questions into one, because I think they're relatable, because they go back to some of your honesty from before. One of the questions was, how long did it take to set up Common Ace, your new platform that was recently launched, in terms of investment? And then what advice would you give for somebody who want to start their own retail brand? But then somebody also said, maybe you could reach out to college students who are eager to help without receiving payment. You talked about, staff and help and support. So maybe if you could combine those two questions to help people out. I think, we need to talk about Common Ace. I think it was in all the headlines. I think it's really tremendous. You started this platform that's women focused, giving them a space to go and shop and find different things. So I know that was a lot of verbiage, but take that however you want.
Yeah, no, thank you. No, it's super exciting. I'm psyched about it. Honestly, like my business partner and I, we're not girly girls, right? We're both really into sneakers, and I think women in this space, I'm just tired of being on a bunch of streetwear sneaker panels and being the female and having to answer questions about where women are going in this space. Like, let's do something about it. Let's actually put our money where our mouth is and actually do some work and get something done and actually solve this problem, because clearly there's a need, and the industry has been talking about it enough. And so, the initial thoughts, we've gone through a couple ideas, and really what we're here to do is just to organize the chaos that's on the internet. I found myself browsing on a number of different websites with multiple tabs open, scrolling. Some of the websites have good buys, some don't. And sometimes I'm not really looking to drop, hundreds of dollars staring at grails on StockX or GOAT. And sometimes I just want to be able to maybe just look at general releases and have a good, online experience shopping. And as a female consumer, sometimes when we can't pick a colorway, we'll just buy more than one and maybe return it and whatever. So it's also kind of like the female psychology in that. And it's just, just one place for women. And I think what we're really aiming to highlight, and you can see that on our social as far as like the content part, is to just show that there's so much diversity in the space, different backgrounds, different styles, different countries, different types of bodies, different types of styling yourself if you want to be more masculine with the way you dress, or, more feminine one day. And just to highlight all of that. And it's been amazing, the support from the community overall. Obviously during COVID, everyone's like, how is it like launching a business at this time? And thankfully we are digital. It's doing really well. And as far as having support, we've had just such a wave of volunteers, people who are interested in being angel investors. We were kind of having some VC conversations as well. And, the future is really bright. And I think because there's a lot of really amazing talent out there who are unemployed right now and collecting unemployment, they're just down to support. Like, people have been reaching out to us, either women who have worked in the space who are just tired and feel like their voices aren't being heard or their skills aren't being utilized. And it's just slow and steady wins the race. We're really excited to just buckle up our bootstraps. And then as far as monetary, it's out of our pockets. It's out of two people's pockets. And thankfully, I've invested in the skills to be able to design and understand the whole space of web design, and reading up into consumer psychology and stats, and, also spending a lot of time observing my own behavior, because it's really easy to check out and buy some expensive sneakers on StockX, which I always have to remind myself. If I'm stressed out, I'm like, don't do it. Just don't do it. It's okay. But that's what the consumer is thinking about. And I have to do a lot of like self-awareness and reflection to be like, that's interesting. How can I mimic that and create that? And because of my background in kind of just being obsessed with health and wellness, how can we actually understand body hacking and creating different types of hormones into getting people to want to shop better? Is it color theory? Is it, how can we communicate that via design? And so it's a deep, exciting wormhole. I thrive in it. And we're just really excited to see where things go.
That's awesome. I'm stoked to see how it progresses. And it sounds like you talked about it earlier, even some of your experiences, through your internships and learning that web design now are coming to fruition on an even higher level and a bigger scale, which is years and years in the making. So I think patience is a good takeaway even there, in terms of, just doing things to learn that experience, and you never know how it can be applied later on. You talked a lot, obviously the platform is very digital. I'm going to go to Sam's question. And this is for anyone who wants to take the question away with an answer. With social media and constant influence / trends popping up every second, what advice would you give young creatives to help them cut through the noise and maintain their point of view?
Turn the phone off.
Yeah, get off of social media.
Actually,
don't pay attention to it.
Dwayne, you might know Thomas Tan. We actually went to college together.
Oh, nice. Yeah, how's Tom doing?
He's good. I haven't touched base with him in a while, but he actually said something super inspiring to me when I was a college student, and I was always raving about other illustrators. I would so dope and all this stuff. And one time he just looked at me and he was like, if you keep trying to look at other people, you'll never be better than them. And at that time I was like, I'm just a college student. Oh, you're going way too deep. Like I don't know what you're talking about, but I think there is some truth to that. And especially now more than ever with our digital devices, we've all been there. You look at what other people are doing and you can get sucked into this wormhole, but just turn your phone off and focus on what's in front of you.
Yeah, I think I definitely believe that. I mean, as one who's not on social media, so I can't really tell you what the hell that's about, but I know it's a lot of noise, where I do think you should turn it off. But I really think, kids and even those who are unemployed or about to be employed, this is the time for you to work on your skills, right? Because the competitiveness only gets higher and higher now. It's way bigger than ever before. And so work on those skills. And I saw a few questions in the chat, and there was some person that said, how can I get into the industry and not start at the bottom? And I'm just like, what? Like, you need to earn everything. Like, you can't just start at the bottom. You can't just start at the top just because you're switching. But I think that's a little bit of today's kind of psyche, right? There's a shortcut, and there is no shortcuts. Like, there is no shortcuts. The sooner you understand that it does not exist, the more productive you're going to be. And I go back to this quote from Abraham Lincoln that I love. He said, if he has 6 hours to chop down a tree, he would spend 4 of them sharpening his axe. And it's like, okay, if you understand preparation and being ready for the opportunity when it presents itself, like, you wouldn't have to be ready. Like, you're just ready to go. But looking for the shortcut, you're always going to be left behind and end up doing twice as much work, right? That's the crazy part about the whole thing. I would say for us, like in the last 10 years, we're only about 30% of where my vision is for Pencil. It took us 10 years to get to 30%.
Wow.
But we're sharpening that axe. So that next 10 years, it won't take us, it'll take us a lot quicker to get to where we want to be, closer to that 100% in the next 10 years, because we did the work, right? We laid a foundation. And I think creatively, you have to lay a creative foundation for who you want to be. If you're just waiting for some magic pixie dust to drop on your paper and your pencil, that doesn't exist. Like, I've never watched Harry Potter, but I heard he has some magic stuff that he uses or whatever, right? That's not real. That is not real.
Movie magic.
Yes, do the work. Stop looking for shortcuts.
Kyle, do you want to expand on any of that, or?
No, I mean, distractions and noise. Same thing. I think the easiest path is through reduction. Stop listening to that shit.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. I think
naivety is like a really good thing sometimes too, right?
Heck yeah.
Be naive to your competitors, dude. March your own path. I didn't get into this industry until I was like 29. I'd always followed it, and I started working in retail in a streetwear store, but my path to now is very unconventional, and I'm lucky enough to be able to work with some of the most notable folks in the industry, but it wasn't because I had a hack. It was a long climb and no pay and just working your ass off, I guess one of the best things I was ever told, and I really took it to heart at the time, and I don't know why. It might have been the time in my life, but it was super simple. It was just show up, right? You get the opportunity to show up. And I think my competitiveness drives me to be prepared when I show up. I sharpen my axe, right?
Perfect. We're going to jump to a question that's kind of COVID based. Seems like I forget what the question was. There's so many, I can't find it now, but it was based around, now the competitive landscape is it's so heavy with COVID and the impact where, many companies are on a hiring freeze, footwear designers trying to enter the industry, college graduates of recent times are trying to find work. What advice would you guys give? Is it as simple as just grind away at what your passions are, or is there a strategy behind it?
I have multiple opinions, but Sophie, ladies first, if you got some.
I was trying to find the girl's Instagram. I mean, everyone probably can pronounce her. I just didn't want to butcher her last name, but that Nicole
McLaughlin.
McLaughlin. Like, I think she's a great example. I know she's extremely popular, but like, she's not trying to, I don't think she's out there applying for jobs. I think she's just sitting around sewing stuff and getting creative.
She's just doing what she loves.
Definitely.
Yeah, I don't know the girl, but I follow her and I love what she's doing. And I think that what she's doing speaks volumes, because you don't need a brand. You don't need anything. You have your creativity, maybe some boredom and some bag of chips and skills. So what are you going to do with that, right? And I think that's where creators can thrive the most. Yeah. They will come, the phone calls and the checks will come. You have to set your intentions right. You have to invest in your skills. You have to sharpen your axe. And I think that's like the most popular thread in terms of what we've been talking about. Everyone is too busy looking at, it's okay to have role models and stuff like that and things that you aspire for and aspire to be. But don't let that kind of cap your creativity, because then you get really pigeonholed in your thinking. And that's why I'm just like, put your phone down, be bored a little bit. You know, if you find yourself waiting for something, don't play with your phone. If you're in the elevator, don't play with your phone. Go talk about the weather with the guy that's standing next to you. You know, like I like having moments like that, because we have the luxury of having our cell phones all the time now. If we can put ourselves in a position of boredom, what kind of creative energy and creative product will come out of that? I like to believe that all of our creative ideas and capabilities are already within us. It's for us to set ourselves up in the right environment to be able to, you know, lean into that and see what comes from it. And so, you know, just be bored and see what happens.
Yeah, Nicole is awesome. You know, I got to meet her at Complex Con last year. I think it's canceled this year. And yeah, that's all she does. She hot glue stuff. She doesn't even always sew it. It's just whatever's at your disposal. And we're all stuck in our homes and apartments, and it's really amazing what you can create. Dwayne or Kyle, do you have anything to add to the young people who are struggling in the job market right now?
Toughen up, man. Like,
I love it.
Because it's competitive, though. I mean, you got to toughen up, and you know, I'll admit, you know, the first few weeks of COVID was a little paralyzing, both physically and mentally, right? Because you know, you're not sure if this is real and how long it's going to last, and you know, so it's paralyzing for a little bit. But then at some point, you know, you got to shake it off, and then start to embrace. All right, this is my new reality. Okay, now what do I do with it, right? Because it's not going to go away. And I think that's where you become resourceful and your survival skill starts to kick in. And I hope you start to become creatively smarter, right? Mm-hmm. Because then now you're able to strategize and figure out, all right, what is my move now when I've gotten stripped of everything that I used to think was super important to my existence. And now I'm like, oh, I'm just at home chilling, doing nothing. Well, you're at home and awake and alive and healthy. You are way better off than a lot of people in the world, right? So for me, I would say once you get over that period of feeling sorry for yourself and stuck, it's time to get mentally stronger and figure out how to be resourceful and really start to develop and work on your skills, because there's, you know, as Sophie said, and there's a lot of people that are super talented that will be unemployed. And that means it's going to be an employer's market right now. But what's crazy for the employers, they don't have any money to hire anybody, right? So you have all this available talent and they can't even get placed. So that talent is going to get creative and creatively smarter and become resourceful and start doing their own thing. Or start, you know, figuring out what their next move. Some people probably switch industries, right? So don't even be afraid to switch industries, because if the one that you're in now or that you knew is not giving you any run, then you might need to do something to continue to eat, right? And, you know, that was a little bit of an epiphany for me. Not that I'm switching industries, but like I remember a few weeks ago, one day I was like, man, like I haven't thought about anything different for the last 31 years but footwear. So I started like studying herbs, and not like weed herbs, but like herbs that are better for you, right? I know this is Portland, and y'all know, you know, Portland, right? No, like, you know, because I'm like, well, I want it to be cool to have a herb garden, right? So I just started planting the herb garden, like just doing something different. It started to open up other creative juices that I had kind of, you know, stashed away. So just open up, man, and try something different, and that'll kind of snap you back into reality.
That's awesome. Kyle, what do you got?
I'm gonna leave it right there.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect. Well, we're approaching. It is 4:57. We've hit an hour just about. If you guys, any of you, have just a last word or sentence or anything you guys want to address, it seemed like very positive commentary coming through. Just a quick bit before I open it up to you guys as a last final statement. There will be a poll at the end of this when this does conclude. So all of our viewers, thank you for watching. And then please answer the poll as it pops up. It wraps up. We'll do this again. We'll have another sneaker forum. These are going to continue as time goes on. We'll figure out if we can get back to real life and having it in a real environment, but we'll see. If not, we can do it like this. I think this was pretty successful. But other than that, I'll leave it to you guys for anything you want to add.
Thank you.
Sophie?
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's good to see you again.
I know.
Yeah, no, I appreciate everyone tuning in. Thanks for having us. I look forward to the next one.
Yeah, same here, man. Thank you, Vibram, for wanting to hang out with me again. You know, I appreciate that. But it was good to be on the call and good to connect with folks and hopefully whatever we said, maybe Fabricio was able to get a couple notes down. Maybe, I don't know.
I'm sure.
But yeah, it was a good time, man. Thanks.
All right. Thank you for everybody who listened and joined in.